Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT Americas Awards. At this point, I've already uploaded my EMEA and Pacific One awards, so you can go back and watch those if you want. But basically, I'm going to be going through like my MVP, Rookie of the Year, all that kind of stuff, Coach of the Year, all that kind of stuff, just for Americas in this video. And yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that. Just giving you my picks. If you guys enjoy, leave a like and subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Leave a comment about who you think should have won each award, uh, and why I'm wrong. If you disagree, but if you agree, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, let's get right into it. So we'll start here with my Rookie of the Year pick for VCT Americas, and that's going to be EG's Demon One, who has mainly been playing Jet for this team, has been playing the Brim on Fracture. But if you go to the stats here, let's find him. Where is he? He's up at the top of it. Obviously, he's not fragging as hard in terms of like rating as like ROTY or Jake. Where was Jake? I swear Jake was on here somewhere towards the top, but actually he is harder than Jake, but not as hard as ROTY. Those were the other two that I put in contention. I didn't really consider anybody else. Like Som wouldn't count. I mean, who else would even count for this award? I'm just trying to look, but this is like somebody who's never been on a like big VCT stage until this season, excluding Lock-In. Lock-In doesn't count as a big VCT stage, I guess, for this, just because I mean, every player was guaranteed to go to that, and we'll just count that in as this. Yeah, I don't think anybody else that I know would count for this award other than Demon One, Jake, and ROTY. And I'll give a little bit of spoiler. One of those is my surprise player of the year, or I guess breakout player, you could say. But Demon One had a huge split. Was one of the big reasons EG was able to like change the narrative around this team from what was going to be a bottom feeder to like one of the top teams and a playoff team in Americas. So big props to Demon One. He is my Rookie of the Year. And so we just talked about him a little bit for the contention for Rookie of the Year, but I picked Jake as my breakout player of the year. Obviously, the other pick was ROTY, but I just think Jake, I think he was the most surprising player of the split out of any team. Obviously, ROTY was a great IGL, but also he had a lot of help in the mid rounding from some of the other players, like the veterans on Cloud9, like Zeppa, Leaf, Celsius. So I went with Jake, who was one of the top controller players in all of Americas. Like, we'll go stats, we'll go search by agent, omen, and apply filter. Okay, well, some players that played barely any rounds, and then he was one of the top omens. I guess Saucy doesn't count either. Behind Khalil, Tui's, and Som as like the top three like main omen players. Uh, so I think he came in and filled his role very well. He diffed Marv in that game they played against Sentinels, and was one of the big reasons that Cloud9 was able to like be one of the top teams in Americas. He just kind of held his own, did very well, and yes, he is one of my main concerns going into the playoffs. I am recording this before the playoffs start, just because I don't want that to influence picks because it's not supposed to. But I think Jake is currently one of the best smokes players in Americas, and probably a top three at least in NA. And so for my bounce back player of the year, I picked Victor, who for energy, or I guess for optic last year, was pretty much their worst player by consensus. I don't think anybody thought any other player on that roster was worse than Victor. Not that I thought not that anybody thought Victor was necessarily bad. He was just the main like space creator and like sacrificed for the team when they needed it. Uh, but now on energy, he seems unleashed. He played the duelist role for them for a while in that like when they were like experimenting with the roles, and he was just owning on the jet up. I thought his jet op was better than Artis's was for a while, uh, but I think Artis picked it up towards the end of the split. So I don't necessarily think you can say that, but he was still ridiculous. And then once they started putting him on the Rays towards the end of the split instead of Artis, he was just unleashed again. I don't know. This guy plays so many different roles. As you can see, like the Killjoy, he played the Viper for a while, but he's also played the KO, the Jet, and the Rays, and is probably the best flex player in all of Americas. Like he's rated as a top 4 player by ACS right now. I think Zekin, you could say, is a better flex player than him. If you consider Leaf a flex player, I would rate him higher. Um, but he's had a huge breakout and kind of a bounce back to form of what he was when this team was known as Envy. And so for my most underrated player of Split 1, I picked Ethan. I guess of the split, I picked Ethan from EG. Very similar to Victor. I just don't think he's as good as Victor. I considered having Victor for both that last one and this one, but I kind of wanted to have 2 different players for it. Uh, Ethan, the most experienced player on this roster, he's the flex player, the glue for this team, and was a big reason they were able to upset Leviathan. Even though I thought his stats were a lot better than that in this game. I know his Ascent game, he went crazy in that game. And yeah, as I said, it was one of the big reasons they were able to win, and is probably the biggest piece other than Demon 1 in this EG roster. Also, I forgot to add, I just don't think this guy is getting enough recognition for how good he is. I thought he was very good when he was playing for 100 Thieves, but that like didn't work out organizationally with him, which I don't think was a bad decision by either 100 Thieves or Ethan. I mean, obviously, EG made playoffs and 100 Thieves did not, but that's not like a because they didn't keep Ethan or anything. Like Asuna has been a better flex player than Ethan, in my opinion. But I still think Ethan is a very solid player and just does not get enough recognition for how good he is. So now we're on to my coach of the year, who it just has to be MCE. There's other very good coaches in Americas, but MCE is the best coach probably in the world right now. He's the best scout in all of Valorant. The only coach that's particularly close to him in terms of scouting is Mini from Fnatic, and even then, MCE's had some absurd finds. Just that whole guard roster with Valen, Trent, all those players. And then now on Cloud9, where he puts together pretty much a super team with Ye, Zalsis, all Vanity, all those guys, and then is forced to drop his IGL Vanity and his star player in Ye, and manages to pick up a player that didn't even make the challenger circuit in tier 2 and a collegiate player and fill them in on Cloud9 and go 8-1 in Americas, which is just absurd. Like obviously his scouting is so good, but also, I mean, his talent development is also insane. Like again with the guard roster, that roster got better throughout all of Split 1. Obviously, they took or I guess Stage 1 it was called then, and they did take a little dip, but then they in Stage 2, and then they got a lot better for LCQ, and were able to get second there. So obviously the guard achievements don't really matter for him, but we kind of just know how good of a coach MCE is now, and I think he's the best scout in Valorant and is my favorite coach because of that. And so for my MVP, uh, I don't think this one is a question at all. I do think it's kind of close between these top 2 players, between Leaf and Aspas. Actually, I think Les is kind of a little bit of a dark horse in there. Um, but I think this decision for me is pretty easy. And I'm going to take Leaf, who is the second highest rated in terms of VLR rating, highest ACS, second highest K. Oh my god, I didn't even realize Aspas was that high. Second highest ADR, second highest KPR, tied for highest kill per round, and is by percentage wise the most clutch player in all of Americas. Uh, he's just so absurd. He's played 3 different roles for this team. He's played Sentinel kind of at the beginning of the year, mixed with the Jet, and then also has flexed onto the Sky, and also has played the Neon on Lotus. And on top of that, he's been doing a lot of mid rounding and like scouting and like anti stratting against certain comps and teams for this team, like outside of the game, which all of that combined makes Leaf my most valuable player, just by the definition. This guy is just unreal. I think Aspas individually, if you're just looking at how he's playing in the game, sure, I agree that he's the top rated player. But if you consider the amount of different agents Leaf has been playing for this team and like how impactful he is outside the game, I just think this isn't a question for me. And so yeah, those are my VCT Americas awards. I just realized that every single player there is from North America. Uh, that wasn't intentional, but I think all these NA players really deserve these awards. Like I think you could argue Aspas or less for MVP. Best coach, you could argue. I think it's Fraud is Loud's coach. Uh, but other than that, there's not really too much to argue here. I guess I mean there's really no break. I guess Khalil for breakout, but other than that, there's not really too much to talk about for Brazilian or Latam teams. So that's why it's just all NA. For that, I'm gonna be. I think I've already put out my EMEA and American Pacific ones. I've definitely put out my Pacific one at this point. But I don't know exactly the order I'm gonna upload these in. So whatever, make sure to stay tuned for it, or you can go back and watch my ones for the other regions if you're curious about that. But yeah, with that, that's gonna be the video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.